Didn't you, Michelle? Go ahead.
Again, as Heba said, you don't want to talk about it because you don't have any assessment yet, U.S. assessment, but things on the ground are moving. Hezbollah already is accusing Israel of considering this incident as an attack. The Israelis are putting their relative forces in high alert. There are some reports that Israel will declare soon that the Northern Front is the main front in this war. Do you still believe that your influence is capable of holding this conflict from not exploding into a regional war? Because it seems that it's slipping from your hands.
It is not, I understand why you posed the question to me. It's not just a question for the United States. It is a question for every party in the region. Of course, it's a first order question to Israel. It's a question to Hezbollah, but it is a question to all of the other countries in the region about what type of region that they want to live in. So the United States is going to continue to push for a diplomatic resolution. We're going to continue to talk to our partners in the region about the need to avoid any type of steps that would avoid escalation of the conflict. But ultimately, as is always the case, this is a question for parties in the region and what kind of world and what kind they want to live in and what kind of future that they want to have. We continue to believe that the solution to the situation in Gaza, the situation across the blue line, the broader instability that the region faces is to tone down the rhetoric, tone down the tensions, tone down the hostilities, get a ceasefire in Gaza, move to a diplomatic resolution in the north, and set the conditions for broader regional stability. But that requires actions not just by the United States, but by parties in the region who have some agency of their own.
But I mean, you say it's not a question for the United States.
No, it's not just one for us. I know why we get these questions, but the countries and entities in the region have agency too for the decisions that they make. And so we will continue to impress upon them what we believe is in their interest and what we believe is in the interest of the region. But these are decisions that countries in the region have to make and entities in the region have to make for themselves.
But don't you see that you are putting your both hands on this conflict and not allowing somebody else to take any actions to pressure Israel? You're not allowing the UN Security Council to put any pressure, any other countries or international agency in the world who will criticize Israel with an action. You will go against it. So you are actually holding this conflict with two hands and not allowing others to act.
So first of all, I think the evidence of the past 11 months would very much contradict the idea that we can prevent any country in the world from criticizing Israel, because there has been inordinate criticism of Israel. There have been resolutions passed at the UN. Countries are free to take the steps that they want, and you have seen a number of them across the world do that. As for other countries, look, we are involved in this because we see it as our responsibility as one of the world's powers to try and get involved and reach diplomatic resolutions and try to bring stability. We would welcome other countries' involvement in trying to tone down tensions. We would welcome the involvement of other countries in trying to reach a diplomatic solution, either to the conflict in Gaza, as we've seen with Egypt and Qatar, directly engaged as mediators, or to the situation in the north. There is, in many cases, a paucity of other countries willing to step up and take that job.
Matt, on this one,
you would welcome Iran?
We would certainly welcome Iran stopping funding terrorist organizations that are behind these attacks and behind much of this instability. Look, if Russia, let me say China, we've been very clear on a number of times that we would welcome their positive involvement. With Russia, Russia has this burgeoning security relationship with Iran. If they were to use that influence with Iran to tell them to tone down their support for terrorism, we would absolutely welcome it. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but we would certainly welcome taking those steps.
Just to make the point, I mean, to play devil's advocate here, when those countries tell you that maybe you should do something by toning down your support for Israel, you say, no, that's just not going to happen.
Look,
right?
We obviously have a different assessment of what's productive and what's not. Go ahead.
Going back to Lebanon, you said that you consider targeting terrorists as a legitimate act. Then Hezbollah is a terrorist organization by the U.S. Does that mean that you support such operation that happened today and that targeted Hezbollah?
So again, when I gave that answer, I said I want to be very clear that I'm not answering with any specificity regarding this incident, because we're continuing to gather facts on it. But in general, yes, of course we support operations to target Hezbollah militants who continue to launch terrorist attacks against civilians. Israel has a right to defend itself against terrorism and a right to carry out legitimate attacks against terrorists, not civilians, but terrorists. So as a general proposition, yes, of course.
And one on Iran. Iran president has said today or yesterday, we are brothers with the Americans. They should put an end to their animosity toward us by demonstrating their generosity in deeds. Do you have any comment on that?
So certainly we have great fondness for the Iranian people. There are tremendous connections between the American people and the Iranian people. There is a large Iranian diaspora inside the United States and close family-to-family ties that we believe are incredibly important. But when it comes to the regime, ultimately we'll judge them by their actions, not their words. And if he wanted to show brotherhood with the United States or with other countries in the world, the way to show brotherhood would not be through rhetoric. It would be to stop arming and encouraging terrorist groups, to stop nuclear escalations and blocking the work of the International Atomic Energy Agency. It would be to stop plotting to kill political opponents, stop transferring missiles and drones to Russia, and ultimately stop cracking down on the human rights of its own people.
Thanks.
No, let me go to Heba. Let me go to Heba. Then Saeed, I promise you. Let me just Saeed. There's never been a briefing where I've skipped you. So Heba, go ahead.
Just a follow up. When you are calling on other countries to step up in the region, who do you mean? I mean, I'm not asking you about China and